In the wake of the Council's decision, the quiet hum of the UN military command came alive with urgency. Across Earth's cities, as the news spread, there was a ripple of disbelief followed by quiet resolve. People didn't yet understand the full scale of what was coming, but they knew one thing: humanity was about to fight its first galactic war. Admiral Jackson Gray stood before a massive holo display in his command room, staring at the flickering star map of the Silent system. His sharp gaze scanned the data streams that poured in from Earth's observatories, satellite reports, intelligence from allied species who had flooded the hegemony's reach, intercepted Zarkala communications. Everything pointed to a horrifying reality. The Zarkali were not simply enslaving the Silent. They were methodically exterminating them. Entire cities had been burned to the ground. The few remaining survivors were being taken as hostages for the Zarkali's cruel re-education programs. Humanity had been thrust into a fight it wasn't ready for, but there was no turning back now. Gray turned as Colonel Lena Calloway, his most trusted field commander, entered the room. Her face was set in a determined frown, her military uniform crisped. She stepped up to his side, her eyes fixed on the map. "We've gathered all available assets. The fleet is assembling in Earth orbit as we speak. The initial jump window to Silent is calculated for 18 hours from now." Gray nodded but didn't look at her. His mind was still racing through their strategy, the immense uncertainty of what lay ahead. The Silent will need more than just protection, Lena. We'll have to disable the Zarkali's command structure, or this will be a Pyrrhic victory. If their fleets are anything like the reports suggest, we won't be able to rely on conventional tactics alone. Lena's eyes narrowed as she assessed the situation. We'll have to hit them fast, hit them hard. Guerrilla tactics, surprise assaults. It's the only way to make a dent. Gray agreed silently. The Zarkali had perfected war through sheer overwhelming force. Massive fleets, heavily armed warships, and near-immortal elite soldiers. But humanity had something they didn't: adaptability. Humans were not bound by centuries of military tradition, and Earth's forces had learned to fight in unpredictable, unorthodox ways, taking risks, defying the odds. The Zarkali's arrogance could be their undoing. "Coordinate with the new fleets from the Calvar and Trelawney," Gray ordered. "They're eager to fight, but they'll need more than just our firepower. We show them how to hit the Zarkali where it hurts." Lena gave him a sharp salute. "I'll make sure they're ready." As she turned to leave, Gray's hand hovered over the holographic display. The Silent homeworld glowed in the center of the map, its serene blue and green surface a stark contrast to the burning chaos that was to come. In the quiet, he could almost hear the Silent's cries echoing through space, their faint distress signal still haunting his mind. The UN Council had chosen their path. They were no longer just Earth. They were humanity, standing tall in the face of a galaxy that had long forgotten what compassion looked like. And so, in the cold void of space, humanity's first armada began to assemble, Earth's sentinel force, a symbol not of conquest, but of something much more powerful: defiance. Hook. As the fleet begins its final preparations for launch, a message from a Zarkali scout ship is intercepted. It's a warning to humanity. "You are nothing but insects to us. Leave now, or face the consequences of your arrogance." Humanity's answer is simple and unyielding: we fight for those who cannot. The night sky above Earth's military spaceports was alive with movement. Thousands of ships, human and allied, hovered just outside the atmosphere, their sleek hulls reflecting the dim glow of the stars. Among them, the flagship of the Terran Protectorate Fleet, the U.S. Valor, stood poised and ready. It was a symbol of both humanity's ambition and its unyielding courage. Admiral Jackson Gray stood on the bridge, his posture rigid. His eyes were locked onto the view screen, where the distant Silent system twinkled like a beacon of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. A steady hum filled the air, the calm before the storm. Colonel Lena Calloway entered the command center, her boots clicking sharply on the deck. She had been with Gray since the beginning, through every tactical briefing, every strategy session. The time for planning was over. Now, the time for action had come. Fleet status, Gray asked without turning. Ready, sir, Lena replied, her voice unwavering. All ships are in position. We got a mix of Trelawney frigates and Calvar stealth ships, along with our own forces. The first wave will be a series of high-speed assaults. We're going to hit them fast and hard. If we show weakness, they'll crush us. Gray nodded. Make sure they understand that. We'll need to disrupt the Zarkali command structure as soon as we enter the system. The Silanth are already too far gone. Our only chance is to cripple the hegemony's ability to respond. The bridge fell silent for a moment, and then the low rumble of the jump drive came to life. The Valor and the rest of the fleet began their synchronized jump to the Silanth system. For a brief moment, Earth's forces became a blur of light as they tore through hyperspace. The Silanth system was an idyllic place. Green oceans, sprawling forests, and rolling plains that stretched across vast continents. From space, it appeared peaceful, untouched, but as the fleet emerged from the jump, it became immediately clear that the Silanth had been anything but untouched. The once vibrant planetside was now a shell of its former self, scared by the burn marks of Zarkali bombardment. "Admiral, we've got company," said Lieutenant Marcus Ellis, the tactical officer. His voice crackled with urgency. Zarkali warships are deploying from the far side of the planet. Gray's eyes narrowed. The Zarkali had been waiting for them. "Activate all stealth systems," Gray barked. "We need to get in close before they can establish their formation." The Valor dipped into the shadow of a nearby moon, its engines powered down to a whisper. The Zarkali fleet, massive and menacing, drifted slowly through space. Heavy warships with enormous guns capable of turning planets into rubble. The humans, however, had something they didn't. Surprise. "Launch the assault wings," Lena ordered, her voice sharp and commanding. A swarm of small, agile human ships shot forward from the fleet, darting through the black void like specks of light. As the first wave of human ships entered the fray, the Zarkali fleet turned to respond. But Earth's ships were already upon them. The Trelawney frigates, fast and nimble, broke through enemy lines, dropping mines and deploying missile barrages. The Calvar stealth ships slipped past enemy defenses, planting EMP devices on the Zarkali warships, rendering their weapon systems useless. Humanity's tactics were a blur of precision and chaos, hit-and-run assaults, targeting Zarkali weak points before they even knew what was happening. The Zarkali, used to crushing entire civilizations with sheer firepower, were disoriented by the unexpected tactics. It was a war of nerves, and humanity was in its element. The first strike hit hard, but it was just the beginning. On the surface of the silent homeworld, the Zarkali had left a garrison of soldiers to continue their brutal campaign. The humans' next mission was clear. Land forces needed to secure a foothold and begin evacuating civilians before the Zarkali could retaliate. Lena stood at the head of a rapid response team, ready to make planetfall. The team's dropships hovered above the atmosphere, their engines roaring. As the first wave of soldiers descended to the planet's surface, the team's HUDs lit up with the heat signatures of Zarkali patrols. The Zarkali soldiers were formidable, tall, armored, and equipped with weaponry designed to intimidate and overpower. But humanity's soldiers were relentless, driven by something deeper than just the will to survive. "Prepare for contact," Lena muttered under her breath. "Hook." As Lena's team hits the ground and begins their assault, they're met with an unexpected sight. Silanth civilians, frightened, wounded, and huddled in the ruins of their cities, are waiting. It's clear that the Silanth have been watching the battle unfold in the skies. They aren't helpless. They want to fight. The battle raged on in the cold, silent expanse of space. Earth's forces, small and determined, had struck like a lightning bolt in the midst of the Zarkali fleet. They moved with ruthless precision, hitting weak points, avoiding head-on confrontations, and keeping the enemy off balance. Yet, for all their success in the Silent system, the Zarkili hegemony was not a foe that could be defeated with mere tactics or courage. It was an empire built on centuries of dominance, and its heart was not so easily pierced. As the Terran Protectorate fleet inflicted significant damage to the Zarkili warships, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. Throughout the stars, rumors began to spread. Humans had not only challenged the Zarkili, but they were actually winning. The hegemony was being forced to retreat, their once indomitable fleet losing battle after battle. The ripple of humanity's victory in the Silent system sent shockwaves across the galaxy, and it didn't take long for the Zarkili to retaliate. The message they sent was unmistakable, intercepted by numerous galactic networks. You are weak. Your defiance will cost you. Across the galaxy, systems that had once groaned under the weight of Zarkili oppression began to stir. Species that had once been subjugated or enslaved by the hegemony now saw humanity's victories as a sign of hope. There were whispers in the underworld of secret factions rising, rumors of galactic outlaws planning to join Earth's cause. The coalition of the oppressed had found a voice in the Terran Protectorate's declaration of war, and they rallied to the cause. But as Earth's forces continued to strike deep into the heart of Zarkili space, the hegemony's response was swift and brutal. The Zarkili Emperor, the cold and calculating ruler who had commanded the empire for centuries, could no longer allow Earth's defiance to persist. His voice, a deep and commanding tone, filled the command center of the Zarkili flagship, the Dominion's pride. Enough. The Terrans believe they are fighting for justice, but they are nothing more than insects to be crushed. The Silent are a lost cause. No more resources shall be wasted on them. We will turn our eyes to Earth. The Emperor's council, composed of his most loyal generals, looked to him with silent, unwavering obedience. Send the Reaper Armada. The Emperor continued. Bring Earth to its knees. Let their ignorance be their doom. And so, the Zarkili began to assemble their most terrifying weapon, the Reaper Armada, a fleet of warships specifically designed for one purpose: planetary annihilation. They were vessels of unrelenting firepower, equipped with star-killer cannons capable of obliterating entire planets in a single devastating blast. The Reaper Armada would bring the full weight of the Zarkili Empire to bear on Earth. Back on Earth, Admiral Gray and Colonel Calloway watched as the situation shifted dramatically. Intelligence gathered from rebel transmissions and intercepted communications revealed the Zarkili's next move. The Reaper Armada was preparing to set course for Earth. We don't have much time, Gray said, his voice grave. The Reaper Armada moves faster than we anticipated. If they come, we need to meet them head-on. Lena stood beside him, her expression unreadable. We've been playing defense, Admiral. If they're coming to Earth, we hit them first. Full assault. We need to take the fight to their doorstep. Gray's mind raced. Earth's fleets had won skirmishes, freed worlds, but they had never faced a force like this before. The Reaper Armada wasn't just a threat. It was a death sentence to any world it encountered. We need a diversion, Gray said, eyes narrowing. A bait and switch. We hit their supply lines, disrupt their logistics. If we can sabotage their resources before they reach Earth, we might just stand a chance. Lena nodded, her eyes flashing with the kind of resolve that had become synonymous with humanity's survival instinct. I'll assemble the strike teams. We'll cut them off before they can reach our system. Meanwhile, the galactic community watched, breathless. The Zarkili's warning echoed across every communication channel. The Reaper Armada was on its way, and the galaxy knew that, this time, the fight would be unlike anything seen before. For Earth, it was not just a matter of defending its home. It was a battle for the very future of the galaxy itself, a battle between those who sought to subjugate and destroy, and those who would fight to the end to protect the vulnerable. Hook. As Earth's forces prepare for the coming storm, a small, encrypted transmission reaches Admiral Gray's office, a message from an unexpected source. It's a Silent survivor, speaking in a trembling voice. The Zarkili have something worse than the Reaper Armada. Something ancient, and they're bringing it with them. The encrypted message sent chills down Admiral Gray's spine. The words echoed through his mind as he stood at the bridge of the U.S. Valor, staring at the holographic projection of the approaching Zarkili fleet. The Reaper Armada loomed large, its massive shadow stretching across the stars, its deadly weaponry waiting for a command. But now, with the Silent survivors' warning hanging in the air, a new sense of urgency permeated the atmosphere. "What do you make of it?" Colonel Calloway asked, her voice sharp and questioning, as she approached him from behind. Gray's fingers hovered over the console. He replayed the Silence words one more time. The Zarkili have something worse than the Reaper Armada. Something ancient, and they're bringing it with them. He looked at Lena, his jaw tight. The Zarkili have always been secretive about their most dangerous assets, he said grimly. But this, if they're really bringing something worse, we have no idea what we're up against. Ancient weaponry, a biological horror. If they have something like that, we need to prepare for the worst. Agreed, Lena said, her face unreadable. But what do we do now? The Reaper Armada isn't just a fleet. It's a walking catastrophe. We've barely managed to keep them at bay. And now we have this unknown factor to contend with. Gray's mind raced, weighing the options, knowing full well that the coming battle would be their greatest challenge yet. They needed more information, fast. He turned to the communications officer. "Send out a deep-range probe toward the Zarkili's main fleet. We need to know if there's any truth to this warning. If they're hiding something, we'll find it." As the probe was launched, the tension in the room grew. The Silence words were not easily dismissed, but they were cryptic, and cryptic messages had a way of distracting from the real dangers at hand. Gray knew they couldn't afford to be blindsided, but they also couldn't afford to waste precious time. The Reaper Armada was coming, and the fate of Earth and the Silent hung in the balance. Hours later, the probe returned, transmitting data in fragments. The visual feed showed something that made the hairs on the back of Gray's neck stand on end. "Admiral," the tactical officer shouted from his station. "You need to see this." Gray's eyes narrowed as he approached the display. What he saw was a massive dark structure, a colossal ship, easily dwarfing anything the Zarkili had fielded before. It was unlike anything in human records. Its surface was covered in intricate alien rooms that seemed to shimmer with an unnatural light. It was surrounded by smaller vessels, but it was clear that this monolith was the true power of the fleet. "That's not a warship," Gray muttered. "That's something else. We've never seen anything like it before." Lena stepped forward, her eyes scanning the display. "It's alive," she said, her voice low. "The energy readings, they're not consistent with anything we know. It could be powered by some kind of ancient technology." Gray stared at the image, his mind racing. If this is what the Silent were warning about, we might be facing an enemy beyond our understanding. We need to find out everything we can about this ship, what it is, how it works. The Zarkili Emperor's fleet was only hours away from entering the solar system. If they were to survive, they would need more than just sheer firepower. They would need to uncover the mysteries of the ship before it was too late. Meanwhile, on the surface of Earth, the civilians who had been waiting in fear for the inevitable attack were beginning to take action. Humanitarian efforts were underway to evacuate vulnerable populations from major cities, while the military prepared for the worst. The ground forces, including Silent refugees, were being integrated into Earth's defense units, their advanced knowledge of Zarkili tactics proving invaluable. Among the chaos, a Silent elder, a figure who had once led his people in the fight for survival against the Zarkili, found his way to the command center. His face was lined with age and pain, but there was still a fire in his eyes. "You must listen to me," the elder said, breathless. "The ship you've seen, the Obsidian Throne, is a weapon unlike any other. It has the power to destroy entire solar systems. It was created by an ancient race, long before even the Zarkili's rise to power. The Zarkali have long sought to harness its power. You must stop them before it's too late." Gray's eyes widened as he took in the Elder's words. The Obsidian Throne, a weapon older than the Zarkali. It was worse than he could have ever imagined. Hook. As Gray and his team begin to formulate a plan to counter the Obsidian Throne, a horrifying discovery is made. The Zarkali Emperor's flagship is already heading toward Earth, and the Obsidian Throne is part of its flagship. The battle for Earth is about to reach its climactic stage, and there's no going back. The situation on Earth had reached a fever pitch. The Reaper Armada was no longer just a threat. It was imminent. The Obsidian Throne, the ancient weapon of unimaginable power, was a darker, more terrifying presence than anything the Terran forces had ever faced. And now, the Zarkali Emperor was determined to bring it directly to Earth. On board the U.S. Valor, Admiral Gray and Colonel Calloway had gathered the senior staff for a strategy meeting. The atmosphere in the command center was tense. Officers moved quickly between stations, their faces marked with exhaustion and resolve. "We've had time to analyze the data from the probe," Gray began, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "We know the Obsidian Throne is part of the Zarkali flagship. Its power is unlike anything we've encountered. Ancient, incomprehensible technology that could annihilate entire planets. The Emperor is betting everything on it, and we can't allow it to reach Earth." Lena crossed her arms, her gaze hard. "We've been preparing for a conventional battle, but now we're facing an existential threat. How do we even begin to counter something like that?" Gray didn't hesitate. "We've been gathering intelligence from the Silent refugees. Their elders' warning about the Obsidian Throne was clear. It is not just a weapon. It is a living entity, a construct designed to feed off the energy of entire systems. If it's deployed over Earth, it could drain the planet dry in a matter of hours." "We're not facing a warship," Lena muttered under her breath. "We're facing a cosmic parasite." "Exactly," Gray replied grimly. "The Zarkali won't just invade Earth. They'll devour it." With the Zarkali fleet closing in on Earth's orbit, the UN Military Command began its final preparations. The Terran Protectorate Fleet, bolstered by Allied forces from the Calvar and Trelawney, had to take the offensive. Time was running out, and they couldn't afford to let the Obsidian Throne take root. The first step was to strike at the Zarkali flagship before it could unleash the full destructive power of the Obsidian Throne. Admiral Gray was planning a desperate assault, an attack that would involve sending strike teams to infiltrate the flagship, disable its core systems, and, if possible, destroy the Obsidian Throne before it could be activated. But even the best-laid plans often fail in the face of overwhelming odds. The Zarkali Emperor's flagship was protected by the most elite forces the hegemony had, warriors who could fight without fear or hesitation. To infiltrate their vessel would be near suicidal. "I've sent word to the Calvar fleet. Their stealth capabilities might give us an edge," Lena said, as she studied the schematics of the Zarkali flagship. "But even with their ships, we'll need to move fast and hit them where they least expect it." Gray was already looking at the bigger picture. The Obsidian Throne had to be destroyed, but the human fleets couldn't allow the Zarkali to encircle Earth. They needed to keep the pressure on the Emperor's forces while the strike teams worked to dismantle the flagship. "Prepare for an assault, Colonel. We won't wait for them to come to us. We're going to take the fight straight to their door." On Earth, civilians continued their preparations as the skies above filled with the shimmering lights of ships leaving orbit. Evacuations were in full swing, but many remained behind, waiting for the inevitable. The Silent refugees, having lost their homeworld to the Zarkali, were now the most passionate defenders of Earth. They helped train the human soldiers, providing them with critical insight into the enemy's tactics. One refugee, a Silent warrior named Villan, approached Colonel Calloway, his expression grave. "We have heard stories of the Obsidian Throne. My people once tried to destroy it, long before the Zarkali found it. It cannot be killed by conventional means." Lena looked at him, a mix of disbelief and determination in her eyes. Then how do we stop it? Villain's eyes darkened. There is a way. But it will take more than just your weapons. You must find the heart of the throne, its core. And you must sever the connection between it and the Zarkali Emperor. Only then will it lose its power. The concept was alien to Lena, but she nodded. Heart of the throne. That's where our strike teams will go. The U.S. Valor jumped to the edge of the Zarkali flagship's orbit, ready to launch its full assault. The Terran fleets surged forward, missiles and fighters cutting through space like sharp blades. But the Zarkali were waiting. Massive barriers of dark energy erupted as the Obsidian Throne activated, unleashing waves of energy that shattered incoming fire. The battle for Earth had begun, and humanity's fate rested on the success of a handful of elite strike teams that would venture into the heart of the enemy's most terrifying weapon. Look, as Gray and his forces move to engage the Zarkali flagship, a cryptic message reaches Earth from a long-lost source. The heart of the throne is not what you think. It is not a place. It is a person. The U.S. Valor had entered the Zarkali flagship's orbit, the sleek warship surrounded by the fierce energy shields of the Obsidian Throne, which pulsed like a living heart in the void of space. The battle had already escalated into chaos, but the stakes had risen to unimaginable heights. Every Terran fighter, every warship, and every soldier now faced a singular goal: stop the Obsidian Throne before it could unleash its horrific power on Earth. As the Valor's fleet engaged in a desperate fight with the Zarkali, Admiral Gray stood at the helm, his eyes fixed on the view screen, which was filled with flashes of energy and the shattered remains of enemy ships. The Zarkali Emperor's flagship loomed ahead like a towering fortress, while smaller Zarkali warships swarmed around it like aggressive insects. Admiral, the Kalvar stealth fleet has successfully penetrated the enemy perimeter, reported Lieutenant Ellis, his voice tense but focused. They're preparing to launch the strike teams onto the flagship. They're in position. Gray nodded, a flicker of hope passing through his otherwise steely resolve. It's up to them now. We'll hold off the Zarkali as long as we can. But if they fail... He trailed off, knowing that failure would mean the end. On board the Zarkali flagship, the elite strike teams of the Terran Protectorate, guided by the Kalvar and Silent refugees, prepared for what could be their last mission. The mission to infiltrate the heart of the enemy vessel, the place where the Obsidian Throne was said to lie dormant, and destroy it before it could annihilate Earth. Colonel Lena Calloway was at the head of one of the strike teams, her mind focused on the task at hand. She had faced unimaginable odds before, but this was different. The stakes had never been higher, and the shadows of the Obsidian Throne felt like they reached into her very soul. "Colonel, we're moving in," one of the Silent soldiers said, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "But we don't know what we'll face. The Zarkali don't build ships like this. It's not just a warship, it's something. Alive." Lena nodded, already knowing the gravity of the situation. "Stay sharp. We'll find the heart of the throne. That's our only way in." They moved silently through the cold, metallic corridors of the flagship, their footsteps echoing ominously in the vast, hollow spaces. The interior of the flagship was like nothing they had ever seen, organic, almost biomechanical in design. The walls seemed to pulse with a slow, rhythmic beat, as if the very ship was breathing. Suddenly, the team came to an enormous chamber. The air in the room was thick with energy, swirling with dark lightning that arced through the space like thunderclouds trapped in a glass sphere. At the center of the room stood a massive throne, the Obsidian Throne itself, its surface blacker than any substance Lena had ever seen. It seemed to absorb light, pulling the very essence of its surroundings into itself. But as they stepped forward, the team froze. A figure sat in the throne, her features barely visible beneath the shadows cast by the strange, dark energies surrounding her. "No," Lena whispered, her heart racing. "What is this?" The figure's eyes snapped open, glowing with an unnatural, eerie light. It was a woman, but not one like any they had ever encountered. Her skin was pale as bone, her hair long and flowing like tendrils of shadow. The obsidian throne itself seemed to draw its power from her, as though she were the key to its existence. "I am Ileana, the heart of the throne," the woman said, her voice a chilling blend of sorrow and power. "I have been waiting for you." Lena's mind spun. The Silath elder had warned them about the heart, but they had assumed it was a place, a central core, a power source. But this was something far worse. "You are a prisoner?" Lena asked, trying to grasp the implications. Ileana's eyes flashed with deep, painful memories. "No, I am the awakened one. I am the one chosen to wield the power of the obsidian throne, to bring destruction to entire worlds. But I did not choose this. I was bound to it, as are all who take this throne. The Zarkili Emperor, he did not build this ship to conquer the galaxy. He built it to control me, to use my power." Lena's heart sank. The obsidian throne wasn't just a weapon, it was a prison. The Emperor had enslaved Ileana, tapping into her immense, latent power to fuel his conquest of the galaxy. "We have to destroy this thing," Lena said, her voice barely a whisper. But Ileana shook her head. "You cannot destroy me, Colonel. I am the throne." Hook. As Ileana reveals her true nature, a chilling realization sets in. Destroying the obsidian throne might mean ending the life of the only person who can stop it. Is the sacrifice worth it? The chamber was still, save for the pulsing energy that radiated from the obsidian throne, swirling around Ileana, as if the ship itself was alive, feeding off her presence. The Terran strike team stood frozen, each member caught between horror and disbelief. Lena Calloway's heart raced as she tried to process the enormity of the situation. Ileana, the woman chained to the obsidian throne, was not just a captive. She was its essence, its heartbeat, its power. Destroying the throne meant the end of her life. But if they left her alive, Earth, the Silath, and every system in the galaxy could fall to the Zarkili Emperor's destructive ambitions. Lena's voice broke the tense silence. "There has to be another way. We can't just kill her to stop this." She took a step forward, but something in the air seemed to push against her, as if the very ship was warning her to stay back. Ileana's gaze softened as she looked at the Terran leader. "You misunderstand," she said, her voice tinged with sorrow. "I am not an innocent victim. I was created to destroy, to serve a purpose. The Zarkili Emperor did not enslave me. I was born for this. My blood, my very being, is tied to the throne. Without it, I cease to exist." Lena's mind was reeling. This was worse than they'd imagined. If they destroyed the throne, they would kill not only the weapon but the woman whose existence was bound to it. It wasn't just a matter of survival anymore. It was a moral dilemma. "Can't we sever your connection?" one of the Silath refugees asked, stepping forward, his voice thick with emotion. "We could release you, free you from the throne." Ileana shook her head slowly. "You do not understand. There is no separating me from it. I am the heart of the throne. To sever that bond is to undo all of existence in this form. I have no choice. I am as much a prisoner as you are, Colonel." Lena felt the weight of the words press against her chest. Her instincts screamed to protect this woman, to find a way to free her without destroying Earth. But Ileana's power was tied to the obsidian throne, a weapon capable of draining the very life force from entire planets, a power so vast that even the Zarkili Emperor couldn't fathom its full extent. The quiet hum of the ship intensified as the Zarkili Emperor's forces closed in. Time was running out. If they did not act soon, the Reaper Armada would overwhelm the Terran fleets, and the obsidian throne would be unleashed in full force. "We have to make a choice," Lena said, her voice steady but filled with sorrow. "We can destroy the throne, and with it you, or we can leave it and watch the galaxy burn." Ileana's eyes flickered with an emotion Lena hadn't expected. Relief. "Do you know what it's like, Colonel? To be a weapon without a purpose, to never have control over your own fate, to be forced to destroy because it's all you were ever meant to do." Lena swallowed hard. We won't let you destroy everything we've worked for. The galaxy deserves a future. There was a long pause before Ileana spoke again, her voice tinged with regret. I never asked to be the throne's heart, but I have accepted my fate. If you wish to save your people, there is only one path. You must destroy the throne. But know this, I will not die. I will live on in the echoes of the throne. And you will be the one who takes my life, Colonel. The gravity of her words hung in the air. Lena knew what she had to do. The Reaper Armada was already in motion, and if they didn't act now, Earth would fall. I'm sorry, Lena whispered, her voice breaking. Without another word, she nodded to her team, and the Silent warriors stepped forward, their faces set with the same grim determination. They knew what had to be done. The throne had to be destroyed, even if it meant sacrificing Ileana. As Lena prepared to give the final order, a tremor ran through the ship. The obsidian throne pulsed violently, its dark energy surging in response to the approaching Zarkali fleet. It was now or never. The ship trembled, a deep, resonating vibration that felt like the pulse of a living creature. Lena Calloway gripped the edge of the console as the chilling voice of the Zarkali Emperor echoed throughout the chamber, vibrating through the walls of the flagship. You are too late, Colonel. The heart has been awakened, and now it is mine. The words were cold and cruel, a reflection of the Emperor's unyielding grip on power. The Terran strike team froze, every member instinctively bracing for the worst. Ileana's face flickered with both dread and resignation. No, he has reached the throne. Her voice was barely a whisper, yet it held an unbearable weight. The Emperor was never truly gone. He was waiting for me to awaken fully. He is inside me. Lena's mind spun. The Zarkali Emperor had been waiting for this moment, orchestrating the events that had brought the Obsidian throne back to full power. It was not just a weapon. It was a conduit for his will, a dark, malevolent force that had been lying dormant. Until now. What does he want with you? Lena asked, trying to keep her voice steady as the realization sank in. Ileana's eyes were filled with anguish. He wants to control me completely, to channel the power of the throne through me. With it, he can wipe out entire star systems. I am not just a part of it. I am its anchor. If he takes full control, he will unleash devastation on a scale beyond imagining. Lena swallowed hard. The weight of their situation had just become even more dire. The Zarkali Emperor's influence over Ileana meant that even if they destroyed the throne, it might not stop his plans. But if they didn't act now, Earth would be lost. I can't let him do this, Lena said, her voice filled with determination. We need to destroy it now, or we won't have a future to fight for. Ileana's face was pale, her expression resigned. But in doing so, you will kill me. My life is tied to this throne. I cannot survive without it. The silence in the room was heavy, suffocating. The strike team members exchanged uneasy glances, each of them struggling with the enormity of the decision they were facing. Colonel, one of the Silent warriors said, his voice trembling. There is another way. The Silent once spoke of a ritual, an ancient process that could sever the bond between the throne and the heart without destroying the heart itself. But it requires an immense sacrifice. Lena's heart skipped a beat. A ritual. What do you mean? Ileana nodded slowly, her eyes clouded with sorrow. The ritual will allow me to break my connection to the throne, but at a great cost. It requires a willing sacrifice. Whoever performs the ritual must give up their very essence, their life force, to sever the bond. The implications were clear. Someone would have to die, not just for the cause, but in a way that their sacrifice would sever the throne's power from Ileana. No, Lena said quickly, her resolve hardening. We can't ask anyone to do that. We'll destroy the throne. It's the only way. Ileana's gaze softened. You don't understand, Colonel. If I die, the throne will die with me. But if you use the ritual, you can free me. You can sever my connection to the throne without destroying me. I can help you fight." Lena's mind raced. The offer was tempting. The idea of releasing Ileana from her bonds, turning the obsidian throne into a force for good, not destruction, was everything she'd hoped for. But at what cost? Ileana's eyes flickered with a deep sadness. "It is not easy to be the heart. For centuries, I have been nothing but a weapon. If you destroy the throne, I will never have a chance at life again." Lena's heart ached. She'd never imagined that the fate of the galaxy would come down to this, whether to destroy a weapon or free a soul, knowing that the latter would come at the cost of someone's life. But the stakes were higher than they'd ever been before. The Zarkali Emperor was close to realizing his full power. The Reaper Armada was on the verge of overwhelming Earth. The decision had to be made. "I'll do it," one of the Silent warriors said, stepping forward, his expression resolute. "I will be the one to perform the ritual. My people have paid too much to see the Zarkali destroy another world." Lena looked at the warrior, his face calm but filled with the weight of his decision. She nodded, understanding the depth of his commitment. But as the Silent warrior prepared to perform the ritual, a pulse of energy shot through the room, and the voice of the Zarkali Emperor rang out again, this time through every communication channel. "You will not stop me, Colonel. The heart is mine, and I will make Earth my first conquest."